Welcome back to MVM. Today we have a review. This is for an S1 release. It's called Orbis. It's from Space Cowboys. It is a 2 to 4 player game for ages 10 and up. Takes about 45 minutes. And you are recreating a universe using worshippers, and it's all about tile placement.
Yeah, you're going to be placing tiles in front of you, but this is also a game, one of those games that kind of feels a lot like your Splendors or your Century Spice Roads, where you're trying to build up a little bit of an engine, but you're collecting resources as well, spending these resources to get new tiles, and then there's a lot of sort of puzzly rules for placing your tiles.
So the game is very simple. There's not a lot of components. We'll talk about them right now. You're going to have 9 region titles that are placed in the center of the board, just as you see here. These are going to be in 3 different levels. You have level 1, level 2, and level 3. Some of the tiles are going to be sent out of the game depending upon the number of players. We have a 3-player game set up, so some of those tiles have been removed. Across the bottom, you're going to see temple tiles. These are victory points that are awarded for monuments that you build into your universe, so to speak. You have to have monument representation in your tree, so to speak, before you get allowed to collect those. Again, some of those are going to be removed from the game. Some of them will stay in the game. And then you have gods.
Yeah, the gods are going to come into play for everybody, because by the end of the game, you are going to take one of the gods. These are effectively scoring tiles that will be unique to you. So as you sort of build your engine and build the pyramid in front of you, you're going to want to take note of where you're going to be scoring your points, because there may be a god out there that's just right.
The number of gods that are going to be used is equal to the number of players plus 1. You're going to have level 1, level 2, and level 3 tiles. These are all face down because you're not supposed to know what's going to come up in the next turn. These are cancellation tokens. Cancellation tokens are going to negate some of the points if you don't meet some of the criteria. These are your worshippers. They come in a variety of different colors. And then you have some reduction tiles. These are very sought after tiles, because if you acquire those by acquiring specific tiles, you'll never have to pay those colored worshippers again, period.
Right.
All right, so to start the game, 9 tiles face up, and it's very simple. You're doing one of 2 actions. Either you're taking one of the 9 tiles and putting them onto your side of the player board, or your universe, so to speak, or you're taking one of the god tiles. You can only take one god tile in the entire game. So if you choose to take your god tile, you just set him off to the side. He's going to be placed at the top of your universe at the end of the game, because when you build these, you're building them in a pyramid structure. You have to build the bottom layers, and the second layer, third layer, and so forth. The game's going to take place over 15 rounds, so that by the end of the game, everyone's going to have 15 tiles, including that god tile at the top of their universe.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it's going to wrap up. From the very beginning, though, you start with nothing in front of you. Yeah. And the game plays very easily because, like Jeremy said, you're going to just be taking a tile from the board. Now, there are some rules here for placement, but there are also some things going on when you take a tile. As you can see here, most of these starting tiles don't have any costs. And in fact, if we take a look at one of these tiles and break it down, in the top here, you're going to see something empty on this tile, but in many tiles it will show some of the worshippers that you have to give up in order to acquire that tile. One of the cool things in the game is these tiles are going to start to accumulate worshippers on them as they're taken. You can actually pay that cost with worshippers from the tile that you're taking.
On the left-hand side of each of the tiles, it's going to tell you what that tile will give you if it is collected, or what is required of that tile in order to collect it. So when you take a tile, this is what's going to happen. I can choose any of the tiles in front of me, since I have a blank universe in front of me, and I'm simply going to take that tile, I'm going to put it on my side of the board, and it's going to be my bottom row. The next thing I have to look at is what color tile I took. I took a blue in this case, so I need to take blue worshippers and put them on all the orthogonal tiles that are next to the one I just took. So in this case, I'm going to put a blue worshipper there, and I'm going to put a blue worshipper there. Then I'm going to look at the tile itself. This says that I get to collect one blue worshipper from the pool and then put it to my side. That's basically the end of the turn. Now, as we said, there's multiple things that can happen, or requirements that come into play. Some of these, as David already alluded to, have a cost associated with them on the top of the tile themselves. One of the cool things about the game is that sometimes worshippers are going to accumulate on this. You can actually spend the worshippers that are on these tiles to pay for the cost if you decide to take that tile. Once you're done taking the tile, you're simply going to replace it with a level 1 or a level 2 or a level 3, depending upon how far through these stacks you've gone. Now, let's get into the actual placement rules for what needs to be done. The bottom level is going to determine what can be placed above it. This is very important. When you build out your bottom level, anything can be next to each other, but you're determining what can be placed on top of it, because when you place, if I have a blue tile and a red tile that are butted up against each other, that means a blue tile or red tile has to be placed on top of one of these two touching it. You can't break that rule. in any other way other than taking a wilderness tile.
Yeah, the wilderness tiles are all over the board. You didn't know it. But on the other side of these tiles is the wilderness version of that tile. So if you take a tile that you really want to take, maybe there's a lot of worshipers on it, maybe it's a tile you don't want your opponent to have, but you can't place it, you're going to have to place it according to the rules, but flip it over. It effectively becomes a wild. It represents all colors. Now this is going to come into play in all cases. So you're going to place that down, and in Jeremy's example, it can be a blue or red, it doesn't really matter. But then there's going to be some other tiles that will trigger scoring-wise off of tiles that are adjacent to it or connected to it. And this tile can be whatever color you want it to be, whenever you want it to be that color.
Now, there's a variety of other tiles other than ones that just give you straight up colors. Those are normally mixed into the level 1 things. However, there are ones that will give you these. These are the infinity or the reduction tiles. These are correlated to very specific tiles. For instance, if I were to pay a blue and a red, I get this tile, meaning that for the rest of the game, anytime anything requires green in order to pay for it, I don't have to pay for it permanently. Now there's other kind of tiles. There's all kinds of varieties. There's temples. These are your white tiles. You're going to notice on the temples, they're going to have different denominations of temple locations. These are straight up numbers that you have to count at the end of the game in order to grab one of those temple victory points at the end of the game. Whoever has the most of these at the end of the game is going to get victory points. You don't get anything else for them other than the satisfaction that you're going to get one of those tiles at the end of the game.
And then you've got the villages tile. It's denoted by a little picture of a tiny village, and then underneath that there's usually a square that represents any type of worshiper or any color. And you need to get rid of 3 of those in order to score these 3 points at the end of the game. And like we've mentioned, if you can't do this at that point, you're going to take one of these tokens here and place it over that as a reminder that you don't score those 3 points. You're going to get 0 points for this, but you're still able to take that tile again for the worshipers that might be on it or for whatever needs you have.
There's some other kind of tiles. There's forest tiles. They're going to have arrows pointing to all the things that would be surrounding it, and it tells you what kind of tiles you want to have around this. In this case, you want more forest and you want more yellow tiles. If you do, you're going to get 3 victory points. There's waterfalls. That's going to tell you specific color tiles. So not only do you have to build this on a blue, but you also want to build it on a red, because this one's going to score you 3 victory points if it's on top of a red. And the final ones are these that have the lightning bolts. These are unique. When you pick these up off the board, they're either going to score you points right then, or you're going to get one of those cancellation tokens. In order to score this, it's telling you to get rid of very specific worshipers off of the board at that given time. In this case, 4. If 4 green worshipers exist anywhere, I can remove those, place this according to the normal rules, and then I will get 2 victory points at the end of the game. If I don't do that, I can still take it, but I'm just going to get 0 points for it.
Yeah, it becomes interesting because there's tiles out on the board in many cases that you could take if you wanted to, but you're not going to be able to take full advantage of them if you do. Like Jeremy just said, if the worshipers aren't out there, you could take that, but you're not going to score those points. Just like some of the other tiles, you could take, but you're not going to be able to potentially score the points on that tile depending on what's going on.
Yeah, sometimes you're just taking the tile to gather those worshipers so that you can power future turns. Again, on your turn, you can completely bypass taking one of these tiles once in the game to take one of these god tiles. Again, when you take the god tile, you set it aside, because after each player has taken 14 turns, they're going to take their god tile and place it at the very top of that pyramid they've bought. Then you basically score. You're going to look at all the different tiles that you have, how many victory points that they have given you depending upon what is on the tile itself, and then each player is going to score for their temples. You're going to look all around the board, look at each player's universe, and count the number of temples that are in each of those white tiles. Whoever has the most is going to score the highest victory points, and then so forth. You have to have at least 1 temple to score one of the tiles. If you don't get the bottom one at all.
Right, and then you're also going to score your gods, and the gods, like we mentioned, score for a variety of different reasons. There are some that score if you're the person that took most of the lightning bolt tiles. There's all sorts of different things. There's some that are just straight up, here's 2 points. Now many of the gods are 3 points, but you could take that one god for 2 points, play it safe, you don't have to accomplish anything, you're just going to get 2 points.
All right, let's get into the actual review of the game itself. One of the things I like that I purposefully skipped over is that you may think that you could get handcuffed in this game and not be able to get the kind of tiles that you want to get at a given time. And that's true. However, there's two outs in this game. One is flipping that over to the wilderness tile. It's not always a bad thing because it gives you some flexibility to build on top of it and to score things that need specific type of tiles underneath of them, because those wilderness tiles can be anything that you want at any given time. The other great thing is at any given time, you can give up 3 worshippers of the same color and turn it into any other worshipper of any other color. Again, that's extreme amount of flexibility that you have in the game to do things. So you're not completely handcuffed all the time to be able to do very specific things that you need to do.
Yeah, I would agree with that. At first, when you're playing this game, you never want to flip over one of those wilderness tiles. That's just sort of innate in everyone's behavior. You don't want to do that because I don't even know if we mentioned this, but those are -1 point too at the end of the game. So it's telling you, do this as a last resort. But like Jeremy said, it is a great element of flexibility in the game. In fact, I just realized that the other day when we were playing this again. I did that, I didn't want to do it, but then I was like, oh, well now I can score all these other tiles on the board right now that I couldn't even before because I'd set up a situation on my bottom row where I was done with blue unless I wanted to use a wilderness tile.
Yeah. One of the things that I love about the game is the look of the game. The art in this game is fantastic, especially the gods. When you look at some of these gods and you really take careful attention to the artwork, they're fantastic. Not only that, but the tiles themselves are beautifully drawn. They have little differences on some of them as well that you could, when you look at them, you can pinpoint different things on them, which is really neat. The design, the look of it, it's very playful, it's very colorful, which means that it's not only built, obviously, for enthusiast gamers, but it's family friendly as well.
Yeah, this is definitely not only family friendly, but just casual gamer friendly. This is a good addition to sort of that gateway group of games, like I mentioned earlier, things like Splendor or Century Spice Road, those kind of games that are simple to play, very satisfying too. When you're building a pyramid, I mean, who doesn't like building a puzzle, right?
Yeah,
so you're
puzzle.
basically putting these tiles out in front of you. You feel accomplished when you build that pyramid, and you're following some pretty basic rules for doing so, but ones that you have to think about as you play the game.
Yeah. All right, so number one con for me is you just said it's gateway. It is gateway, which for me means it's too easy. There's not enough meat on the bones in this game. I don't think that there are enough scoring possibilities in the game and enough differences between the tiles. Once you played the game 3 or 4 times, you start to realize specific patterns and specific ways to score points, the optimal ways to score points. So I think that this game has probably a shelf life of 5 to 6 games before you've pretty much seen everything that you want to see within the game.
Yeah, I would say for an enthusiast gamer, I would totally agree. As you know, the kind of games we like to see is a game like this, and if it had, and this would be hard to balance, I admit, but if it had a ridiculous number of different tiles that you might see some in some game and you might not see them in another game, where you're getting a tile that's very unique and you're like, ooh, what does that one do?
Right.
But like Jeremy said, any tile that comes out here, you pretty much, it's a short list of what it can do. But again, then it wouldn't be a gateway game otherwise.
That's all the negatives I have, just that it's too gateway for me. I mean, other than that, I think the game it's fast. It's 45 minutes in and out. As I said, this can be played with just about anyone. It says ages 10 and up, but it can be probably played with ages 8 and up. There's not any reading at all involved in the game. It's simple iconography.
Yeah, I would say as long as you have someone who's old enough to remember all the things that you need to do while you're playing, because when you take a tile, you have to put those worshipers out there. That is something that sometimes is hard to remember, but other than that, yeah, I would agree. Great gateway game.
All right, Orbis, Space Cowboys, going to be released at Essen, 2 to 4 players, ages 10 and up, 45 minutes to play. If you guys have any questions about the game, make them in the comments below. Subscribe to us, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and everything else that we do. We'll catch you guys next time.
Bye-bye.